It didn't start with a tweet. It started with a tremor, a shift in the air, a single name rising through the static of political noise like a siren cutting through fog. Jasmine Crockett. Somewhere in Mar-a-Lago. Yes. Donald Trump's thumb hovered. Over the glowing screen of his phone, twitching with indignation, his blood was up. Not because she lied, but because she dared to speak. She had torched one of his loyalists during a late-night committee hearing. Dismantling their argument with the precision of a trial lawyer and the fury of someone who'd been underestimated her entire life, the clip went viral overnight, and Trump, ever addicted to control, needed to reclaim the narrative. He didn't hesitate. Jasmine Crockett is a lie-Q fraud, loud, nasty, and trying too hard to matter. She's the real threat to America. Which do you think justice was finally served on that stage? Drop your city and country in the comments. We want to hear where truth still matters. If you believe it's time to take back power from the corrupt, share this video. Let's light a fire they can't put out. Subscribe to Truth Ambush and join the front line of those who refuse to stay silent. Because silence is there. Favorite weapon? Yes, he went there again. But this time, it wasn't Hillary. It wasn't Pelosi. It wasn't some aging pundit past their political prime. It was Crockett, a woman armed not just with receipts, but rage, rhythm, and a memory like a blade. And as that tweet exploded into cyberspace, it was like watching a lit match land in a field of dry gasoline. CNN broke the news first, then MSNBC, then BBC. Trump attacks Crockett in shocking midnight tweet. Hashtags detonated across Twitter. Hashtag WitchWatch. Hashtag Trump triggered. Hashtag Crockett vs cult. TikTok lit up with edit slow-motion clips of Crockett adjusting her mic, raising an eyebrow, leaning forward at hearings over bass-boosted audio and battle rap anthems. But Crockett, she didn't blink. While the nation gasped and gossip chains spun into overdrive, she was alone in her office, lit only by the soft glow of her phone and the late-night skyline of D.C. outside. She read the tweet once, then again, a third time, and smiled not. Out of amusement, but recognition. This was a pattern. They always came for women like her, loud, black, brilliant. They tried to frame truth as aggression, intelligence as arrogance, and when they failed to box you in, they burned you at the stake. Her staff begged her to wait, draft statements, call CNN, let the outrage do its work. But Crockett wasn't built for passive resistance. She didn't rise from poverty and prejudice by playing polite, and that's when she did it. Not a tweet, not a thread, a video. 1 minute, one shot, one message, no script, no filters, just her. Direct to camera. Asterisk, you want to call me a witch, Mr. Trump? Fine. Let's talk about dark magic. You convinced millions to worship a lie. You summoned mobs to storm the Capitol. You turned hate into profit, fear into votes. If I'm a witch, you're the devil's apprentice. Asterisk, the video hit 20 million views in under an hour. Trump's response? Rambling, defensive. He claimed she was dividing the country, then tried to change the subject entirely, posting about golf scores and Joe Biden's age. But the damage was done. His base roared, but even some loyal followers hesitated. Something had shifted. That night, Crockett's name wasn't just trending. It was branded into the heart of American discourse. Talk shows debated her comeback. Late-night comics replayed the video with stunned applause. Even international outlets from France 24 to Al Jazeera in headlines. Asterisk, U.S. Congresswoman takes on Trump and wins the internet. Asterisk, but the most haunting response came from silence. 12 hours, Trump posted nothing. No rage tweets. No memes. No truth social monologues, just ... nothing. A silence so unfamiliar. It was deafening. And in that silence, the world finally heard Jasmine Crockett's voice echo louder than ever before. Apologetic. It's unshaken and unforgettable. Because when the smoke cleared and the timeline calmed, one thing was certain. Asterisk. This wasn't just a clapback. This was warranted. She had just fired the first cannon. Asterisk, asterisk, it began. Not with words, but with a smirk caught in a freeze frame from Trump's latest Truth Social rant. His mouth curled like he'd already won a war that hadn't even started. The video, live-streamed in front of a gilded fireplace, had the energy of a mob boss auditioning for sympathy. But the moment that smirk appeared, millions watching at home could feel it. Something sinister was coming. And it did. "I don't know who Jasmine Crockett thinks she is," Trump sneered, gripping the armrests like he was ready to launch. "She walks around like she's smarter than everyone in the room, but every time she opens her mouth, it's just angry nonsense. No class, no facts, just volume. If she didn't have the race card in one hand and a Democrat shield in the other, nobody would even know her name." He paused for dramatic effect, eyes gleaming with the same swagger that once fueled rally crowds and fear-fed headlines. "She's not a leader, she's a loudmouth. An embarrassment to Congress and to women everywhere. Frankly, she should be thanking me for giving her 15 minutes. The crowd of MAGA loyalists behind the camera laughed on cue, but even through the screen it felt forced, staged, hollow. And yet for a few hours it worked. Conservative influencers flooded timelines with reaction videos and stitched clips calling Crockett unhinged. Right-wing media recycled old footage of her fiery speeches, framing her passion as rage, her confidence as arrogance. But Crockett wasn't watching. She was preparing. While the internet howled and political opportunists danced, she sat in silence alone in her office, surrounded by framed photos of civil rights leaders, protest marches, and the handwritten letter her grandmother once gave. Her asterisk, "Don't ever whisper when you were born to roar." Asterisk, her phone lit up with messages. Asterisk, asterisk, ignore him. Stay focused. Don't give him what he wants. Asterisk, asterisk, but she knew better. This wasn't just another Twitter war. It was personal now. Not because he called her names, she'd been called worse. It was because he weaponized the one thing her entire life had been. Built upon her voice, and she wasn't going to stay silent. She didn't tweet. She didn't schedule a press conference. She went live, one camera, no notes, one take. Her face was calm, composed, but her eyes. Those eyes held something that couldn't be spun or edited. Righteous fury. "You want to talk about loud, Mr. Trump?" she began. "Let's talk about the sound of police sirens outside my childhood home. Let's talk about being told to tone it down in courtrooms where my male colleagues were praised for being tough. Let's talk about how every time a black woman demands to be heard, you call it aggression." She leaned forward slightly, never breaking her gaze with the camera. "You want to say I'm not qualified? I've prosecuted criminals while you were committing fraud, stood in front of grieving families while you were golfing through disasters. I fight for people. You fight for your ego." Pause. Then the bombshell. "And let me make something crystal clear, you don't own my name, my identity, or my destiny. Don't give me 15 minutes, I take them. I earn them. And while you're busy melting down in a fake palace built on gold and lies, I'm here doing the work you were too lazy, too scared, and too selfish to do." The clip detonated on every platform within minutes. TikTok flooded with reaction. Videos, YouTube commentary channels interrupted scheduled content. Even Reddit, no stranger to chaos, had a pinned post in our politics titled, "Asterisk Crockett just lit him up. Watch this now." Asterisk cable news scrambled. Journalists rewrote scripts. Mid-broadcast, Anderson Cooper called it one of the most unapologetic, direct takedowns of Trump ever seen from a sitting Congress member. Fox tried damage control, spinning her words as an emotional outburst. But even their analysts struggled to downplay the power of her delivery. And then something happened no one expected. A growing murmur began from within the GOP itself. A former Republican strategist tweeted, "This isn't a meltdown, this is a reckoning. Crockett is the future, and Trump can't handle it." A GOP senator from Arizona refused to comment when asked about Trump's attack, but her silence spoke volumes. But the biggest surprise came from the American public. Independent voters, suburban moms, young activists, veterans. They weren't just applauding Crockett, they were rallying. Behind her, one viral comment read, Asterisk, she didn't clap back. She stood up, and we needed that. Asterisk, the next morning, an op-ed titled Asterisk, the woman who faced the tyrant and didn't flinch, asterisk, ran. In the Washington Post, a meme of Crockett standing tall with fire in her eyes, and the caption, asterisk, asterisk, volume does not equal. Violence, asterisk, asterisk, racked up over 1 million shares in 24 hours. And while Trump tried to pivot, posting rants about inflation, immigration, Hunter Biden, none of it stuck. The focus had shifted. His grip was slipping in Crockett. She returned to Capitol Hill, head held high, unbothered. When asked by reporters if she had anything more to say to Trump, she paused, then smiled. Asterisk, he's already said enough to bury himself. I'm just making sure the country hears it loud and clear. Asterisk, but that wasn't the end. Not even close. Because somewhere deep inside Trump's war room, a new strategy was brewing. And while Crockett had just delivered the blow that shook his, Image's next move was darker, more dangerous, aimed not just at her but the very idea of truth itself. Asterisk, asterisk, what happened next wouldn't just escalate the battle, it would put the soul of American discourse on trial. Asterisk, asterisk, it wasn't rage. It was calculation. Trump's silence after Jasmine Crockett's last strike wasn't retreat. It was plotting. He hadn't been defeated, he was wounded. And like any cornered beast, he prepared to strike harder, lower, and louder than ever before. Not to argue, not to debate, but to erase her. Days passed with no response. People assumed he was backing off, headlines speculated. Asterisk, Trump outplayed. Cable hosts dared to dream. But on a Thursday evening, in the heart of Texas, the silence cracked. A rally. A crowd. And Trump, stepping onto the stage with that old smirk, familiar, arrogant, now laced with something darker, he didn't start with policy. He didn't warm up with jokes. His first words sliced through the air like a blade. Let's talk about Jasmine Crockett, shall we? The crowd erupted. It's not cheering, but something closer to bloodlust. And he fed it. She's the darling of the fake news. The queen of fake outrage. You know, she talks a big game, Trump said, pacing like a predator. But what has she actually done? He pulled out a sheet of paper, fake of course, and waved it. Her record? Empty. Her credentials? Inflated. Her speeches? Screaming fits wrapped in race cards. Then the tone shifted. Sharper. Colder. Personal. Let me tell you who Jasmine Crockett really is, he growled.
Out.
She's the kind of politician who uses her skin to shield herself from criticism.
Out.
She hides behind identity while cashing checks from coastal elites. Hey, do you want to hear something really funny? He chuckled, voice laced with venom. I heard she didn't even pass the bar on the first try. Real genius, right? Lie, but that didn't matter. The damage was intentional, deliberate. He wasn't just undermining her politics. He was attacking her intellect, her integrity, her existence, and then came the kill shot. She's nothing more than an angry social climber pretending to be a revolutionary. But strip away the drama, the noise, the look-at-me moments, and what's left? Nothing. Just another fraud with a loud mouth and a victim complex. The arena roared. But even in that roar, something cracked. The insult landed, but not the way he wanted. Social media didn't cheer. It paused. Even some of his allies blinked. They knew this wasn't strategy anymore. This was obsession. Crockett, of course, saw it all. But this time, she didn't rush to respond. She waited. She let the internet turn. She let the clip circulate. And she let the country feel that chill. And then she stepped onto the floor. Of Congress? Not a podcast? Not a tweet? Not a news interview? Congress. A place where every word becomes history. She held nothing. No binder, no script. Just her voice. Let me say this for the record, she began. Every syllable sharpened with purpose. Donald Trump says I'm unqualified, that I'm loud, that I don't belong. And that's exactly what men like him have said to women like me for generations. They've called us angry when we were passionate, unintelligent when we were informed, dangerous when we were brave. She paused, scanning the chamber. Every eye fixed, every camera rolling. He calls me a social climber. No, Mr. Trump. I climbed out of poverty. I climbed through prejudice. I climbed past closed doors, glass ceilings, and burning bridges. I didn't climb for myself. I climbed so others wouldn't have to beg for a seat at your crooked table. Then, her voice dropped lower, slower. She wasn't speaking to the chamber anymore. She was speaking to him. And you want to mock how many times I took the bar exam? Fine. Let me tell you something. I'd rather take the test twice than cheat America once. The room gasped, audible, real. Reporters froze mid-typing. Staffers. Heads whipped up. The chamber had been tense before, but now it was alive. Crockett wasn't done. You want to strip away my identity? My legitimacy? Let me remind you, my ancestors weren't invited into power. They were dragged herein. Chains. And now, their great-granddaughter stands in the halls you tried to desecrate with lies, violence, and hate. I'm not screaming, Mr. Trump. I'm surviving. Surviving louder than you ever expected. The clip broke the internet. Again, but not like before. This wasn't viral for drama. It was sacred. TikTok with 12 million views in 4 hours. Showed side-by-side footage of Trump mocking her and Crockett's speech under the caption, ***1 makes noise. 1 makes history. ***, news anchors couldn't hide their emotion. MSNBC's Joy Reid teared up mid-segment. Trevor Noah posted, that wasn't a clapback. That was a revolution in a sentence. And the backlash? Fierce? Veteran Republican? Strategist tweeted, **Trump picked the wrong opponent. He's fighting shadows. She's building legacy.'' Meanwhile, Trump panicked. He posted 8 times in a single hour. Wild conspiracy theories. Claims she was coached by Obama. Accusations she was funded by the Chinese. He wasn't attacking anymore. He was unraveling. And behind the scenes, whispers turned to warnings. High-level advisors feared a collapse. His obsession with Crockett was eating strategy. Leaked memo read, **We can't beat her if he keeps giving her the spotlight." But Trump wouldn't stop. Because Crockett didn't just survive the humiliation attempt. She transformed it. She didn't fight fire with fire, she turned it into fuel. And just when Trump thought it couldn't get worse, he gave her everything she needed to expose the one secret he swore no one would ever find. What came next wouldn't just shake his ego. It would threaten to shatter the entire illusion he built his empire on. He leaned back like a man. About to watch a public execution, the smug tilt of a billionaire who thought he'd finally cornered a woman the system had underestimated one too many times. But what Donald Trump didn't realize was that the trap he'd set was rigged against him. The world was watching. For 12 million viewers across platforms, a live town hall dubbed The Reckoning, hosted by a right-leaning network desperate for a ratings spike. Their gamble, primetime face-off, between the twice-impeached former president and the rising firebrand of Congress, Jasmine Crockett. The matchup was lopsided, or so they thought. Trump had name recognition, a cult following, and years of media warfare behind him. Crockett, a relatively new political force, sharp in mind but underestimated in every room she entered. That was their first mistake. The audience was electric. MAGA hats on one side, justice buttons on the other. News anchors whispered from the sidelines like this was a heavyweight title fight. But then came Trump's smirk, the kind that usually precedes a dirty play. "I've got a little challenge for Congresswoman Crockett," said smoothly, holding up a packet like a magician revealing his final trick. "Since everyone keeps calling her brilliant, let's see if she can handle something more presidential." The moderator looked confused. "This wasn't on the script," Trump continued. "Let's say there's a terrorist attack on American soil, multiple cities. The president declares a national emergency and detains thousands without trial. Congress is frozen. Supreme Court is on the fence. You, Congresswoman, are asked to draft an emergency legal memo defending or opposing this in 5 minutes. National security? Civil liberties? Real stakes? Let's see what you've got." The room fell into stunned silence. Some gasped. Others leaned in. Social media exploded. One tweet hit 40,000 likes in 5 minutes. **** Trump just trapped Crockett on live TV. **** Crockett didn't flinch. She slowly took off her glasses, folded them, and stared across the table like a woman dissecting a paper tiger. Then, without even glancing at the hypothetical, she spoke. "Before I answer, let's correct something. The real emergency here isn't your made-up scenario. It's that a man who's been impeached twice and indicted 4 times thinks he gets to test me." The crowd gasped. Trump opened his mouth to respond. Crockett cut him off. "You talk about suspending civil liberties? You've already tried that? You've sent troops into peaceful protests? You've tear-gassed citizens for a photo op? You didn't need a terrorist attack. To pretend you were a king, just an election you didn't win?" A flicker of panic passed across Trump's face. Crockett pressed on. "And legally? Article the 1st gives Congress the President the power to suspend habeas corpus. You'd know that if you ever read beyond your own name. The Supreme Court has already ruled in Ex parte Milligan and Boumediene v. Bush detaining citizens without trial is unconstitutional, no matter how loud you scream emergency." A man in the audience shouted, "Sheesh." As applause began to break out in pockets, Crockett wasn't finished. "You think this is a pop quiz? I'm a civil rights attorney. I don't need 5 minutes to answer fake scenarios. I spent my life fighting real ones. Kids detained at borders, black men jailed without cause, families ripped apart by policies you cheered for." Trump tried to laugh it off. "That's cute," said, but Crockett's eyes burned through him. "Cute is when you use big words you don't understand. Like treason, like emergency powers, like truth. You think power means you get to make the rules. I know power means you follow them even when it's inconvenient." The moderator didn't intervene. He couldn't. The audience was already erupting. And then came the moment that no one could have predicted. Crockett stood up, reached into her blazer, and pulled out a small weathered booklet. She held it up. "This," she said, "is the Constitution. I carry it every day, not for show, not for speeches, but because I swore to defend it against enemies, foreign and domestic." And sometimes she looked him straight in the eye. Those enemies were red ties and orange faces. The crowd exploded. Screams, claps, gasps. Trump's face tightened. The producers cut to commercial, desperate to contain the moment.
Oh.
But the internet had already claimed it. Within minutes, hashtags trended worldwide. Hashtag Crockett crushes Trump ***************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************** ******** by the book even. Conservative commentators had to admit Trump had been blindsided. One wrote, "He brought a legal maze, she brought the map, and set it on fire." But the final blow hadn't landed yet. When the cameras returned, Trump muttered something about fake lawyers and radical Marxism. Crockett didn't even turn to face him. She looked at the camera again, calm but burning. "You wanted a trap, Mr. Trump? You built one? But it wasn't for me. It was for the people who still believe you understand this country. Tonight, they saw the truth. You don't fear losing power. You fear being challenged by someone who earned hers." The crowd rose, not just standing, but roaring. And just when it seemed like the night had reached its peak, Crockett stepped forward and whispered into her mic, "Asterisk. Next time you test a black woman's intellect, make sure you pass the test yourself." The room didn't just explode, it detonated. Trump didn't speak again for the rest of the broadcast, because the challenge he thought would destroy her, became the grave he dug with his own hands. He wasn't sweating, he was unraveling. Not just in words, not in theory, but in real-time on camera. On stage and in front of millions, Donald Trump, the man who had once bulldozed debates with bravado and bombast, was now visibly shrinking. His smirks were tighter. His eyes darted faster. And his voice, usually thick with arrogant certainty, wavered with every syllable. This was no longer just a debate. It was a reckoning. Moments ago, he thought he had her cornered. Crockett was supposed to fumble. She was supposed to snap under pressure, lose her temper, misquote a law, or stumble on a name. She wanted a viral clip where he looked like the genius, and she looked like a loud, angry woman. That was his strategy. Poke, belittle, humiliate, but the only one cracking was him. Let's be real, Trump snapped, interrupting Crockett mid-sentence. You didn't even know what Title 42 was until CNN told you. I've negotiated deals with countries you can't even pronounce. She cut in, not with volume, but with precision. That's rich, Jasmine said, smiling like someone who had just heard the punchline before the joke. Coming from a man who thought injecting bleach was a cure for COVID, laughter erupted. It's uncontrollable. A full 10 seconds passed before the room could quiet itself. Even some on Trump's side couldn't help but chuckle nervously. But Crockett wasn't done. She walked slowly toward the center of the stage, commanding the space like a conductor entering her crescendo. You want to talk about deals? She said, you bankrupted casinos. Casinos, the one business where people literally give you money for nothing. You lost that. And now you're here trying to spin constitutional law like it's a real estate contract? Trump's face flushed crimson. You don't understand business, Jasmine. You've never built anything, she turned, eyes locked on him. I built a legal career defending people your policies tried to silence. I built my way through rooms full of men who laughed like you. I built truth in places you only sell. Lies. And guess what, Mr. Trump? She took one slow, deliberate step closer. I'm still standing. And suddenly, he wasn't. Not mentally, not emotionally, not politically. He stammered, switching topics so fast it gave the audience whiplash. Let's talk about crime. Let's talk about Chicago. Let's talk about the border. They're invading this country. Nobody's talking about that, except me, because you're the only one who's scared of a future you can't control, she snapped back. That's why you keep changing the subject, because the second we talk about facts, you fold. The audience's reaction wasn't just applause, anymore it was awe. Could feel the mood in the room shift completely. No one was listening. To him, all eyes were on her. Even the moderator seemed frozen, caught in the storm of truth Jasmine was unleashing. Trump reached for his final weapon, mockery. I've had more success in a week than you've had in your life. People know me. They listen to me. You're just background noise. Jasmine's stare turned to steel. And yet here you are desperately talking over me, like a man drowning in his own echo chamber. Gasps. She turned to the audience. Voice soft now, almost intimate. This is what fear looks like, America. It doesn't come with a scream. It comes with a smirk that slowly crumbles when faced with a woman who came armed with truth. The air had changed. You could feel it. Trump tried to speak again, but it was too late. His voice no longer held power. It was static. Background buzz. And in that moment, everyone watching across the country knew the man who once controlled the room had lost it completely. Then Crockett leaned into the mic one last time. The final strike, measured, lethal, unforgettable. Asterisk, asterisk, he wanted a spotlight. I gave him a mirror. Asterisk, 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 and the shattering sound of that reflection was only the beginning. Asterisk, asterisk, you could hear a pin drop. If it weren't for the sound of Trump unraveling, he wasn't debating anymore. He was flailing. Sweat streaked down. His temples, his voice strained, his eyes scanning the crowd, searching for a laugh, a nod, anything to anchor him. But even his usual defenders weren't reacting. They were watching him with unease, like someone watching a skyscraper start to crack. You people still believe her. He barked. She's a liar, a radical. Everything she says, scripted. She doesn't know how to lead. She doesn't know anything. He gestured wildly, knocking over his water glass. Splash echoed like a gavel. And then came the moment that turned the whole room ice cold. Trump leaned into the mic, squinting at Jasmine Crockett, and snarled, You should be grateful I'm even sharing a stage with you. People like you don't belong in rooms like this. Gasps. Audible disgust. Reporters shot out of their chairs, furiously scribbling notes. Cameramen zoomed in, trying to capture Crockett's reaction, but she didn't flinch. She didn't blink. She stepped forward, not like a politician, chasing applause, but like a storm chasing silence. She looked at him like she was reading his obituary in real time. "No, Donald," she said softly. "You've got it twisted. You're lucky I let you finish your sentence. Because if this stage were a courtroom, you'd already be under cross-examination." He laughed nervously. "You gonna lecture me?" "Now, no," she said, slowly pulling a folded sheet of paper from her blazer. "I'm going to deliver something you've avoided your whole life: accountability." She held the paper in the air high enough for cameras to zoom in. The header was visible. "Congressional Ethics Complaint -187 pages. Filed this morning," she said. "Signed by 6 members of Congress. Citing abuse of power, financial fraud, and obstruction. You said this debate was meaningless? Just turned it into a sworn legal record." The room erupted. Screams, applause, reporters shouting questions. People standing, clapping, trying to push forward to get a closer look. Trump's mouth opened, then closed. He looked at the moderator, then the cameras, then back at her. Nothing came out. "Cat got your tongue, Donald," she said, voice razor sharp. "Or is it just hard to talk when the truth finally cornered you?" He tried to wave it off, mumbling about fake charges, political witch hunts, but it wasn't landing. The crowd saw it. The world saw it. He was a boxer swinging at shadows, bleeding in front of millions. Then came the moment no one saw coming. Jasmine turned to the moderator, calm, collected. "I asked permission to show a 30-second clip." "For clarity?" The moderator, stunned, nodded. "Proceed." Suddenly behind them, the giant LED screen flickered to life. Footage played. Trump, just weeks ago on a podcast, contradicting everything he just said under oath during the debate. His words clear, his voice unmistakable. "I never divested anything. Everything was still under my control the whole time. I don't care what the rules say." The video ended. Silence. Then a roar. Perjury. On national television, Trump staggered, visibly shaken. That's when Crockett delivered the final blow. She leaned into the mic one last time, her voice low, but echoing through the entire arena. "You've spent your life believing no one could touch you, that you could lie, cheat, and insult your way through history. But tonight on this stage, you didn't just lose an argument. You committed political suicide in front of the entire world." Boom, the audience erupted. Standing ovation. Reporters racing to file headlines. The hashtag Crockett drop began trending instantly. Phones flooded social media. CNN cut into breaking news coverage. MSNBC followed seconds later. Fox froze. DOJ officials watching live began discussing next steps. And Trump. He was still standing, but barely. His hands trembled. Toward the exit. Crockett wasn't done. "Don't run, Donald," she said, her voice cutting through the chaos. "You built your empire on fear, but tonight, America saw something else: what happens when fear meets facts." He turned to leave, but as he stepped off the stage, a reporter shouted, "Mr. Trump, how do you respond to the perjury accusation?" He said nothing, but his face ashen blank, stunned said it all. And that's when the real shock came next. Crockett walked off the stage. A phone was handed to her. She glanced at the screen, nodded, and turned to the press. "The Department of Justice," she said. "They just issued a formal notice. Investigation reopened. New charges are now officially under review." It wasn't just a debate anymore. It was a political execution. And Jasmine Crockett had just changed American history live. In prime time, the moment was unlike anything politics had seen in decades. No explosion, no insult, just a chilling, deafening silence. Trump's face, usually a fortress of bravado, cracked in front of millions. The smirk vanished. The bravado faded. He stood there blinking hollow, exposed, lost. It wasn't a technical knockout. It was a soul-level disarmament. The man who had mocked Gold Star families, hurled insults at war heroes, and turned Twitter into a political flamethrower. Couldn't even find a sentence to save himself. And Jasmine Crockett, she didn't even flinch. She didn't gloat. She didn't have to. Her power was in her stillness. Trump turned slowly toward the edge of the stage like he was retreating from a war he never thought he could lose. His exit wasn't dramatic. It was pathetic. Staffers didn't follow. Advisors looked down at their phones. The oxygen in the room shifted. The man who once commanded global headlines had just become forgettable. And then silence cracked. Not with noise, but with presence. Jasmine stepped forward, not like a victor claiming her trophy, but like a truth-teller stepping into history. The lights dimmed slightly, casting her in a surreal, almost haunting glow. Every camera, every pair of eyes, every breath in the room turned to her, not out of curiosity, but awe. When a man like that loses the one thing he built his kingdom on, fear, she said, "What's left?" No one spoke, not even the moderators. She took another step, this time not toward Trump, but toward the people. Tonight wasn't just about exposing a fraud. It was about reclaiming a voice. For every single person who's ever been underestimated, silenced, or laughed out of a room simply for telling the truth, her voice trembled, not with fear, but fire. They told me to stay in my lane. They told me I wasn't refined enough, not polished enough. And you know what? They were right. Not here to play the part. I'm here to burn the whole script. A collective gasp rippled through the audience. Phones were already out. Live streams exploded. But let's be clear, she continued, pointing back toward the hallway where Trump had disappeared. Men like him don't fear losing elections. They fear losing control. They fear women like me loud, informed, unbought, and unafraid. The crowd erupted, but she raised her hand, quieting them instantly. This country's soul isn't lost. It's just been hijacked by lies, by theatrics, by cruelty dressed as leadership. Tonight, I didn't fight a man.
Oh.
I fought a mask. And I didn't win because I shouted louder. I won because I refused to lie. She paused, let the weight settle. And here's what I want every single person watching to remember. No matter what they say, you are not too loud. You are not too angry. You are not too much. You're exactly what they fear, and that's your power. Standing ovations surged like a wave crashing through the auditorium. Some cried, some just stood frozen, but no one looked away. Jasmine looked directly into the lens. Now her battlefield, her pulpit, her revolution. So let me ask you, are you still afraid of speaking up? Or did tonight show you what happens when we stop apologizing for the truth? She stepped forward one last time, eyes sharp as razors. If you believe silence protects the powerful, you're wrong. Silence is what creates them. Her voice dropped low, a final whisper heard around the world. But when silence ends, so does their reign. Was tonight the moment everything changed? Tell us where you're watching from, your country, your city, and whether you believe truth finally punched back. If you're done staying silent, share this video with your voice attached. Subscribe to Truth Ambush and join the front line of the fight for integrity, accountability, and real power. Because now, they're not afraid of lies. They're afraid of you.